Good evening, Elsa.
Good evening.
So I hope the video is appropriate.
Yeah, it was.
So welcome to the 35th event of Indian Networker and the 53rd episode of Jam with Sam. Thank you so much for agreeing to be part of the Jam with Sam interview. So you are in Mumbai. Tell us something about you growing up in Mumbai.
So I've lived all my life in four bungalows. My building's name is Sea View, and we can't see the sea at all. So that should tell you a lot about how Mumbai has changed over the years. In fact, I find it very difficult to say Mumbai, because it's always Bombay to me. And I can say Bombay and Mumbai in the same sentence. But yes, I've lived all my life in four bungalows. I went to school at St. Louis Convent, which is in four bungalows, and then Mithibai College. And then I joined Jet Airways as a flight attendant immediately after college. And I had a 20-year career between Jet and Kingfisher. And over the years, I moved through various departments. I was a safety instructor where I taught pilots and cabin crew safety and emergency procedures. And then went through the one and only internal management trainee program in Jet Airways, where I ended up in the strategic side of the business, which is revenue management, deciding what tickets to sell at what time, at what price. If you see the fares changing, that's the revenue management department. And then when Kingfisher started, I was headhunted to join. And as with any new company, you end up doing multiple roles. So I was very fortunate. I took it as a learning experience. And so I did many things and grew with the airline. And my final role was Vice President Network Planning, where I was fortunate to plan, one of the largest networks in Indian aviation. When we acquired Air Deccan, we were planning for about 120 aircraft. We had more than 800 daily flights, which, as you know, then started to come down with the downsizing of the airline. But I had a great experience with Kingfisher, and when it shut down, I started Safe City.
Okay. So one good thing you learned about Jet and one good thing you learned about Kingfisher. One takeaway from them.
So Jet Airways was my grounding in aviation. So I learned a lot. I made all my contacts there, and I think it's a fine airline. Kingfisher, I learned to love life because of Kingfisher.
King size.
Yeah. I mean, I worked very closely with Dr. Malia, and if you put aside what's happening now, he actually told me once, I used to worry a lot. And he said, Elsa, if I have to worry, and I wonder if he ever thinks of this, I would like to ask him this. If I worry about everything, my brains won't function and I won't be able to take any decisions. So learn to relax, So I learned to relax, I learned to have fun, I learned to enjoy my life with Kingfisher.
Okay. So, what made you get into this social cause of Safe City?
So I had a 20-year career, which I think was very, very satisfying. I saw all the different aspects of the business. And when Kingfisher started to downsize, and because I was in planning, I knew that drastic changes were around the corner. I never anticipated the airline would shut down. But it was apparent that they wouldn't need me as vice president any longer. Any one of my team could have easily done the job, So, and I wouldn't have wanted to do it for a smaller sized airline either. And when I thought, what did I want to do next? I couldn't see myself in the aviation space because, I'd been there, done that, worked with two of the largest airlines, and I'm not a skilled person to head engineering or flight ops, which were the only two other areas that were left. And I didn't want to work with the airports, I didn't want to move out of Bombay, and I didn't want to go to the Middle East. So when I thought about it, I said, okay, I think I've had enough of corporate, I've had enough of the rat race, and maybe now is my time to give back. I wanted to actually take a year off, and I decided that I was going to use that time to treat it as my sabbatical to find out what exactly I wanted to do next. I knew it had to be in the realm of children, old people or children, women, children or old people, but I didn't know exactly what. But then the turning point was the rape in Delhi, which really got everybody talking about sexual violence, and I thought, here's something that we all experience as women and girls, but we never talk about it. And maybe this is something that I really want to work on in the future.
Okay. So how did it get started? I mean, what is the revenue model and how did it get started and the story behind Safe City?
So when I started, it was clearly, I had not thought of the business aspect of it. I did not think about, how I was going to make money. Kingfisher had stopped flying. I had a lot of time on my hands and I said, this is what I want to do. So it actually started with just a project, which I never thought would turn out into a full-time job. And, as the momentum picked up with what we were doing, crowdsourcing all these stories, we started getting a lot of media attention. We started getting a lot of, interest from whether it was corporates or whether it was international agencies. And then my mentor, so during the time Kingfisher was downsizing, I was fortunate to attend a Swedish Institute management program. And that was focused on CSR and sustainability and helped me think through my options. And also I heard about a similar initiative like this, which helped me crystallize my thoughts on Safe City. So my mentor at the Swedish program sat me down and said, listen, you're going to miss the bus if you don't do something concrete with this. You can't just run it as a side project. You have a lot of attention, so use it, capitalize on it. So the minute I decided I was going to, register an organization, I was going to turn it into a full-time business, we got selected as an incubator, as part of an incubator process in the US. And that was where, I learned about, okay, how do you structure a business? Do you want it as a for-profit or a not-for-profit? And over there, they were pushing us to think of the for-profit model, but we ultimately decided that we wanted to be structured as a not-for-profit. However, coming from a corporate background, I was not comfortable with the grants and donations being the revenue source, so we decided to create products that we could offer to different groups of people for which we would be paid. And so we have workshops for schools, colleges, corporates on sexual harassment in their own settings. And that's how we have been able to generate our revenue, and we are pretty much sustainable. And we've had only one grant from the Tata Trust so far. Yeah.
So you are a Rotary Peace Scholar just recently. So how has it helped you being a Rotary Peace Scholar?
Yeah. So I heard about the Rotary Peace Fellowship, a few years ago, and I thought that's really a cool program. And for me in particular, it was very important because I came from the corporate background having no clue about the social sector. And to me, this program gave me the educational grounding that I needed for this development work. And to make sure that what we are doing is not somebody who thinks that we are just here to make a difference, but really making sure that you follow the peace principles and that your work is not causing more conflict in whatever settings that you're working in. And I think it's a brilliant program, and to all the Rotarians out here, thank you very much, because I really believe that more people should apply. India, I mean, I was the only one in my batch, but I think we should have at least 2 or 3 people who are Peace Fellows in every batch. And to give you an example of who are the other Peace Fellows, the recently retired Director General of Police Maharashtra is a Rotary Peace Fellow. There are so many police officers, IAS officers, and I think it helps them think about, their work, but from a humane and the user's perspective, rather than only their work-related views.
So starting the app, since you're not a techie person over there,
yeah.
How do you get a lot of people want to start an app? A lot of people have got a lot of ideas over there. So how do you go about making the app? I mean, that also requires funds to have it on iOS. You have it on both the platforms, I think, iOS and Android.
No, we don't actually. It's a web app. So at the moment, it's a web app, and we are in the process of building our mobile app. In fact, last month I was at the Global Entrepreneurship Summit at San Francisco, and I met an investor who's actually one of the presidential ambassadors by Barack Obama. Wow. And I was just telling him about my work, and he said, how much money do you need? And I said, X amount of dollars. And he said, I'll give it to you. Wow. And I was like, okay, that wasn't even a right pitch. But I guess when the time is right, you will meet the right people who will help you in your work. So coming back to your question, I knew nothing about this aspect of the technology, but we depended on other people who came to our help and our aid and put it together. We use open source technology, which is pretty much free and has been very low cost and efficient to run. In fact, our operations are very low cost. So that is how we've been able to sustain ourselves. And going forward as well, we want to create systems and processes that are low cost, open source, so that more people can replicate it in their countries, in their cities, so that we don't necessarily have to create gigantic operations that has huge overheads. And coming back to the mobile app, the investor, we are struggling we don't have FCRA because we are, from the date of registration, we are only 1.5 years old. So he can't transfer the money very easily to us. So he's found a developer, an Indian guy who's going to do it. He's at Stanford and he's actually going to develop it before his term starts in September. So we just had the call today.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Okay. So when you started this uses Google Maps in the background?
Yes.
So is there any proprietary information or some money you have to pay to Google or something because you're doing this?
No, we use the free version of Google.
Okay.
And I met them last week and I realized that there are several kinds of Google Maps, but they are helping me think through these options because we have other things that we want to put on the map. So for example, toilets. Rotary spends a lot of money on toilets, building toilets, but we have found when we work in low-income communities, toilets, if the infrastructure in and around is not done properly, they are a hotspot for sexual violence. And so can we start rating these toilets? Can we start putting the location on it and auditing them? So that's something that we are trying to work with Google India, Google Maps India.
So you were part of the GBG also nominated.
Yes.
Tell us something about that.
So it's very, my journey with Safe City is really magical. So I'd been part of GBG Mumbai, the email list for a while, and I decided I'm going to go for the meeting. So I just come back from the US. In fact, that very same day I came back from the US and I said, I'm going to go for this meeting. It was my first meeting. I'd never met anybody before. And then at the end of the meeting, they put up this competition by Google. For any business using any of the Google products, and we actually were one of 3 finalists in the SME category. There were 3 categories, I can't remember the other 2, but in the SME section we were one of the 3 finalists. Google wrote a case study on us. They sent a video team to film us, so we have a very nicely made Google video and we got a lot of publicity for that.
That's one of the success while we are part of the Google business group.
Yeah.
Come to speak over there. That the time when you got that particular.
And I find groups like these also help expose people like me who are not tech oriented to different aspects of the business or tools that we can use in our own business. Also access to resources. Like Sri Raman, who heads the GBG Mumbai, he's always ready to listen to you, give you ideas or brainstorm. If I'm stuck and I need some help, I call him up and he's always willing to answer my questions. So it gives me comfort that you're part of this network that is always there for you.
Fantastic. So I think somewhere about after 15 minutes or so, I got tired of seeing the places you have visited, okay, I said, nah, that's enough. I can't have so much of it. So which country have you not visited so far?
Lots.
So
Eastern Europe, I haven't visited Russia, Bulgaria, Romania, a lot of Africa. I've only been to South Africa and Kenya.
So this is all when you're flying?
No, see, so one was I joined the aviation industry because I wanted to travel. And I thought that was my way to learn about the world and experience cultures. And I didn't want to get into the rat race. However, I got into the rat race. And as part of my job, I had to travel. So, as Vice President Network Planning, I had 4 international conferences at the minimum a year. I had several meetings, so I would always tag on a couple of days and, just travel around, check out a new place. And I have never worried about traveling alone. So I've always been a solo traveler. And with Safe City, I've continued to travel, and it's been actually more than when I was in the aviation.
Okay, so what are the social media platforms you use, and which do you find most effective for personal and official use?
So there's no separation between personal and professional, because I think there's a very fine line nowadays in social media. So Facebook and Twitter is what I use the most, but I have Pinterest, Instagram, LinkedIn. I mean, any kind of social media, I am present. I found it to be extremely useful for Safe City. We have been contacted by journalists, international journalists who want an interview. Either they get in touch on Twitter or on Facebook. When I was at GES, the Global Entrepreneurship Summit, the organizers actually sent me a mail saying the White House is so impressed with your tweeting and your posting on Facebook that they want you to put out some tweets which they can retweet from their account. However, then Brexit hit the news and they got diverted. But when I got that mail, I was like so thrilled that people actually are paying attention to my profile on the internet. And I think if you just invest a little bit of time, you can do that, whether it is to raise your own brand profile or your company or your business.
So we come to quick gun Sam, one witty answer.
Okay.
So you've got to say one word answer.
One word.
Men.
Collaborators.
Startups.
Exciting.
Vijay Mallya.
Fancy.
Money.
Fleeting.
Rotary.
Exceptional.
Okay, now something about it's over there. The tough part is over there. So something about your family.
I've had I always say that I'm glad that I was born in the family that I was born into. Honestly, they've been so supportive of me, whether it was to join the aviation industry or, switch my career when I was on a fast track in Jet Airways, and I went home and I said, I've got a job offer from a startup, and they were like, are you mad? And I said, no, I think I'm going to go ahead with it. And then when I started Safe City, everyone thought I was mad again, because they said, you have no clue what you're doing. They had no clue I had no clue what I was doing. So I think they've supported me all throughout, and they've never imposed any kind of restrictions, customs on me. They've treated my brother, and I have another sister and I have a brother. We are three of us, and they've treated all of us equally. So I'm very grateful to them and I love them. It's just that they don't stay in the same country. My brother's in Singapore, my sister's in New Zealand, my dad's in Goa, and my mom travels between all of us. So, but we use technology a lot. We FaceTime, no matter where I am in the world, we FaceTime every day if we can, pretty much every day. And that has kept the bonds very strong.
Okay, great. So which is the safest city for women and which is the worst city for women?
I honestly can't answer that, because every city has its ups and downs, good points and bad points. I believe as citizens, and especially women, our situational awareness should be high. And that is only if we know what is around us, who is around us, and trying to navigate these spaces. When I was in Jet Airways, I was a safety instructor. And if you think of every flight you take, we do a safety demonstration before takeoff and landing. For that less than 1% chance that there's an accident, but in that case, you will know what to do. So situational awareness is the key to keeping you mentally strong. And to me, what we do at Safe City in trying to get these stories out from people and putting them on a map, where you can geographically see what's happening, is the first step towards being situationally aware, and hopefully you'll be stronger as a person. And this information is not just for women, but for anybody, because now crime rates are going through the roof. So, and inequality is increasing day by day. So at this point, India is a country where you can still walk on the road without you fearing for your life, but maybe in the future it won't be the same. Hopefully it will stay the same, but you never know.
Okay. So what is the way forward now for Safe City? You're currently in which countries and which cities are you in
Yeah.
Mumbai right now?
So I have a team based in Delhi, Bombay and Pune. We want to expand to at least 3 more cities, but also increase our presence in the cities where we work. We work with educational institutions, the police and NGOs. In Kenya, Nepal and Cameroon, we have partner organizations with which we work. But we have requests from 10 other countries. It's just that we can't handle it at the moment, or they don't have the money to have a dedicated person at their end. But we are right now training on Skype a team in Nigeria, and Malaysia is soon to be added to the list. So where I see myself is actually scaling our work in the current cities that we are in, getting into as many schools as possible, because for me, I think empowering children on this topic of sexual violence is key. The youth, because they have a role to play, and if young men and young women can stand up for themselves and say, we don't accept this and this is not appropriate, I think that's the turning point for all of us.
Okay. And briefly, could you just tell us what exactly, how does the app work and who are the people who can use it?
Anyone can use it. We ask people to share what happened to them, where it happened, the date and time. They don't necessarily have to leave their name and email. Anyone can access this information. You can look at it. What happens is, because these reports are geotagged, they show up as location-based trends on a map as hotspots. And for example, if I stay in 4 bungalows and I see a hotspot, can I then get my neighbors to work on it? So actually, across the next few streets from Manuel Gonsalves Road right up to Otters Club, the issue was chain snatching. And we collected this data and presented it to the police, and they changed their beat patrol timings. And there's been no robbery here for the last 2 years. Otherwise, it was happening almost on a weekly basis. In the bargain, we've got the residents all organized. So now they are better friends, they are much more closer to each other, and they share information. So you see, communities can come forward and they can then tackle other issues like sanitation or whatever else that they want to.
Fantastic. So thank you so much, and we look forward. We got 2 or 3 collaborators here who are ready to work.
Thank you for having me.